Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. I'm sick, and so I'm going to have to excuse myself ahead of time if I have to take myself off camera to hack up a lung once in a while. As you can hear, I'm congested. This started not quite a week ago. Last week, I think it was Wednesday of last week. My nephew Tim had got something and passed it around the household. And so I don't think it's a cold. I think it's the new variant, to be honest with you. I'm being sincere. My back aches, my neck aches. It won't go away. I'm very congested. It just doesn't feel like a normal cold. And quite frankly, it's what people need to realize, and we talked about this in 2020. If you ask virologists, can you hide from a virus? If everybody just agreed to stay indoors for 2 years, once they came out again, it would start to travel. And what I have is what it would have been in 2020 had we just made the weak people stay indoors and the normally healthy people live their lives. It would have gone through the population and it would have been this cold that it is now. Our government and so many other governments got this so wrong. It's ridiculous. But we know why they did that. They did it on purpose. But that's another story. So today we're talking about two things. Number one, food freedom. You may not realize this, but companies like Walmart have just decided to put animal protein in cages with locks. You won't be able to just go and pick up a pound of chopped meat because things are going to start getting tough very soon. Between economic pressures of inflation that we haven't seen in 50 years, combined with the fact that we're going to start seeing a run on healthy foods, on real foods. People are going to have to start eating more crap food, which will just lead to greater disease states. It's more important now than ever to develop a relationship with a farm or farmer or group of farmers. And we're going to have my good friend John Moody on. He came on the show, 2007, 2008, a few different times talking about CSAs and access to healthy food. And his group is actually putting on a really fantastic seminar very shortly in Florida. I'm going to talk about that. And then later, Dan Bensimon from C360 Health is going to join us as we start to look at some more of the information about this amazing antioxidant. And that is Butchering or Lipofullerene. We're going to talk more about that a little bit later in the show. Before we get started, I'm sorry I'm wheezing. Full disclosure. Tasty Pastry is an amazing snack with less than 1 gram of sugar, 20 grams of high quality protein, 4 to 5 net carbs if you're a low carb keto person. And I keep saying this to people. You have never tasted a quote unquote healthy snack that tastes better than the Tasty Pastry. You will swear you're eating actual cake and that it's not good for you, but it is. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary. Use the code SHR10 to save 10% off. If you don't believe it tastes great, give it to your kids. Your kids will not eat a quote-unquote healthy protein bar just because it's healthy. If it tastes like crap, they won't eat it. You will have to fight them to keep the Tasty Pastries in the house because they will eat them first. shrnetwork.biz/legendary. Use the code SHR10 today. And without further delay, bring my friend on. How you doing, John?
Hey, it's so good to see you again, Carl.
Yeah, it's been a while, but isn't it funny, John, that the message still hasn't changed?
Yeah, my wife was commenting that it was 2008, so 14 years almost.
And we talked about it back then, and the message has always been the same, but it may be more critical now than ever before because of the economic climate, because of this constant push by globalists to stop eating animal protein, eat bugs, eat fake meat, eat all this other crap. And now, because of the economic pressures, you have large retailers saying, hey, we're locking our meat up because we're afraid people are going to start stealing it because it's going to be like gold very shortly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, early on in 2020, a bunch of us were warning that the decisions they were making, which didn't make any sense for controlling a virus, because as you were saying, you can't control a virus. You just have to work through a virus. We're going to unleash catastrophic economic consequences, especially in food and farming. And now we're seeing, just unprecedented increases in food prices. I don't know if you're aware as well of the gigantic butchering backlog.
No. Well, that was from COVID, right? Then, so here's the idiocy. Look, if you are still voting for the same politicians that put us in this situation, I'm sorry, you are an idiot. Because there were so many things they did under the guise of COVID, like close down the gyms, but keep the bars open.
Yeah.
If you don't realize the stupidity in those kind of decisions, but also because we slaughtered animals because we couldn't slaughter them and process them.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Well, and they made, though, tens of millions of dollars doing that, because you sit back and you go, well, why would the companies do this? But it allowed them to, on the one hand, all the animals they slaughtered off, they got bailed out from the insurance companies and from the government. And then it let them radically increase prices in the store. It was, economically evil, but beautiful. Because by pulling all of that meat out of the chain, they could substantially raise prices. And they knew that insurance companies and the government were going to foot the bill.
Yeah, it's really sad. And then add to this that it's something you told me off the air, that apparently there is an avian virus now that's attacking chickens, right?
Yeah, so this has started to get some traction in the media. I think it probably was first surveillanced in like December of last year, but there's a new highly pathogenic avian influenza that I think has been now confirmed in 15 states. And I've had a bunch of people on my Telegram channel asking for how much should this concern us? And it's really hard to say, because if you go to Google, that bastion of disinformation, and type in avian flu, in 2004, there was an avian flu. In 2007, in 2019. So every couple years, they kind of recycle the fear around this. But on occasion, it does end up actually impacting the poultry side of the meat supply, because you do suffer 5, 10, 15% losses if it does pan out to be a more serious strain, because the birds raised in confinement have no immune systems. So we don't really know how that's going to play out yet this year. The butchering backlog is still just a major issue, especially if you're trying to support local farmers. So there's a butcher we use up in Indiana, and normally we could call, and within 8 to 12 weeks, we could get a cow or a pig in to be butchered. No big deal. Ever since the summer of 2020, they offer 2 days a year now where you have to physically come to the butcher shop. And you've seen those pictures or videos of Black Friday after Thanksgiving, people lined up, to get the big screen TV or whatever. That is their butcher shop on the 2 allowable booking days. There are 400 people waiting to try and get butchering dates.
Now, these are not farmers. Okay, so like one of our sponsors is White Oak Pastures in Georgia, and they have their own. Are they called USDA processing plants on their property? There's no wait for them to do that, but most farmers don't have access to that, right?
No, not at all. No, and in order to sell you a pork chop, technically, my pig has to go through a USDA processing facility. So if you don't own your own, which, unless you have $3.5 million laying around, it's really unlikely you're going to own your own processing plant. You have to take your animals to one of these processing plants, and they're just overwhelmed. They have 6, 8, 12-month, 18-month wait lists.
Now, do you have to do that for the animals you process for your own family consumption?
No, don't have to do it for our own family. And one of the things we're going to talk about at Rogue Food is the other workarounds for not having to take an animal through USDA inspection.
Okay, let's talk about that. So first of all, let me just put this up first. So right now, when is the seminar? It's this month?
Yeah, it's March 4th and 5th down in Florida.
So the website is roguefoodconference.com. If you use the code SHR20, you can save 20% off if you plan on attending the event yourself. Who is this designed for, John?
This is for anyone who is interested in helping rebuild local, regional, alternative food systems. So this is for the person who realizes that maybe depending on grocery stores that have at most 2 to 3 days of food to feed a major city, in the midst of truckers protesting all across America and Canada.
Which is coming, by the way. It's coming to America very shortly.
Hopefully.
Yes.
So I put up a meme on my Facebook last week, and it blew a bunch of people away. And it was a picture of a processed can of like pear puree. And it said pears grown in Argentina, processed in China.
I saw that. Yeah.
And then sold in America.
Right.
So if you're the kind of person who thinks maybe my food shouldn't enjoy greater international travel than I do before I get to eat it.
Right.
So Rogue came about because Joel Salatin, who's a good friend of mine. A lot of your listeners have probably heard of Joel.
Yes.
The whole reason you have pastured poultry, grass-fed beef is because of Joel and his dad to a large extent. Joel and I were having lunch together about 6 years ago. And we were talking about the direction of things politically in America and the Food Safety Modernization Act and the whole new layer of hoops and bells and whistles farmers were going to have to follow in order to sell you food. And Joel looked at me and Joel goes, I want to go to a conference where somebody teaches me how not to have to comply. I want to go somewhere. So one way to describe Rogue Food, this is something attendees have said. It is like drinking liberty from a fire hose.
Mm-hmm.
Where it is very much, and it's all people who are actual doers. So all of our speakers are people who actively are doing what they talk about, whether it's, PMAs or using various exemptions or just all kinds of different tools and tactics for making sure they can still feed people regardless of what level of government stupidity comes down the pike.
I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to become like the lightning rod. There's certain names that if you mention past tyrants, for instance, that the message gets lost because of the amplitude of mentioning that tyrant's name. But there was a famous tyrant who said, he who controls the food controls the population without firing a shot.
Yeah. Well,
And if you don't believe that's happening today, you're really naive. You really are. And perhaps you should end up where you will end up. If you don't think everything that government is doing today is more about control and less about care of the people, you are a useful idiot. You really are. Because this is all about everything that's been done in the pandemic, everything that's going on with our friends in Canada, what happened in Australia. Here in the United States, the science has changed. How fortunate, right before the elections, the science has changed. But now we have AIDS to deal with again. That just popped out of nowhere, by the way. And you said something interesting. When you and I were talking off the air, you said, how am I supposed to believe that government and globalists who've been complaining that there's too many people on the planet and we have to depopulate, all of a sudden they cared so much about everybody, they wanted everyone to get vaccinated to save everybody's lives?
Yeah, that is, of all the things that baffle me, these are people who for 30 or 40 years have been just, there's too many people. There's too many people. We need to bring population down. We need to control population. We need to herd more people into megas. They've been saying the same thing for decades. And then they wake up on Tuesday. We need to save as many people as possible.
I mean, Bill Gates is a perfect example. Bill Gates has been preaching depopulation for over a decade now. And now all of a sudden he wants to save everybody by getting them his vaccine, and he's planning for the next pandemic. And, you can't be helped if you're stupid. I'm sorry. No, I'm if I'm insulting you, then this is not the right show for you. Because, everything that we've been told since President Trump became president has all come true. Who was really behind the Russian collusion? Well, Hillary was. Now we know this. It's like, and if you just disagree with what we're saying here, it's not because we're not telling the truth. It's because you are lockstep with a party. What's the word I'm looking for? Not an idiom, but you're lockstep with what a party is dictating that they want you to believe, and you don't possess critical thinking skills to go, wait a minute, this can't be true. Look at what we're looking at here. Look at today. We have the worst inflation in 50 years. That's not an accident. Not at all. And on top of that, we are going to lose control of our food, and they're ready for this. That's why they want us to eat fake meat and bugs.
Yeah. Well, and it's really interesting because they've been pushing fake meat, I think, for at least 30 years. And obviously it has its roots all the way back in the crazy Kellogg guy and the original food pyramid research and all of that nonsense back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And they had some success getting people to eat crap processed breakfast cereal and give up eggs. But they've lost a lot of ground, especially in the 2000s and early 2010s. And, these people don't give up. They just change tactics. And,
I don't think enough people know the story behind Kellogg and why cornflakes became a thing. So no, and it's
a great story.
It's where I'm going to give the Reader's Digest version, but was his name Henry Kellogg?
Yeah.
Okay, so Henry Kellogg was of the religious mindset that all evil was driven by sex and sexual desire. And some of us would say this guy had some real problems, but okay. And what he discovered was when you fed children corn and not animal proteins, not fat, not healthy things that build a robust body, they lost their sexual desire. Sure, because their sex hormones plummeted. Their testosterone levels in boys plummeted. The estrogen and testosterone in women plummeted, and they had no sexual desire. This is where cornflakes came from. He's like, how do I get kids to stop eating bacon and eggs in the morning, which is making them horny little devils, and get them to eat just corn. And he came up with cornflakes. Now, I know that if you've never heard the story before, you think this is far-fetched, but do the research, find out on your own. So the reason cornflakes became a breakfast food wasn't because it was healthier. It was because you turned your children into eunuchs. It turned them into, they had no desire for anything. I mean, kind of like putting them all on SSRIs at a very, very young age. Am I making this up?
I mean, it's a great summary. And the thing is, you try and tell this to people and they look at you like you're mad. I'm like, no, you could go read his own writing. You can go listen to the speeches he gave. It's not like these people are hiding. It's not like they're meeting in some dark room and speaking in code. I mean, it's like so much of the past 2 years, it's all out there unless you're willfully blind. And if you're willfully blind, what can we do to help you but try and smack you around? And if that doesn't work, walk away.
Elaine Remains, who is in Canada, says that it was to keep young children from masturbating. That's true. And there's a movie about it called The Road to Wellville. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, that documentary. So, yeah, so there's a big effort because, fake meat sales aren't growing nearly as quickly as the United Nations and other organizations want to see.
In fact, the last I saw, Beyond Meat was spending $1.35 to make $1. So they're losing big time money right now.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, what would you rather eat? Beef, whose ingredient is beef, or imitation beef that has 37 different ingredients, 32 of which you can't even pronounce on a good day?
Well, if you would believe people like Bill Gates, it's healthier for you, but we know that that's not true. In fact, anybody who knows Dr. Sean Baker, who was on my show in 2014, when he started the website N equals many, and he was compelling people, get blood work done, then switch to eating only meat, get blood work done again, who's now proven his theory with reversing disease in so many people that when you switch to meat only, you get healthier. Your diseases go away. Your need for pharmaceutical drugs disappears. I mean, if you go follow Dr. Sean Baker on Instagram, you will be flabbergasted by the number of people who say, I had Lyme disease for 10 years. It's gone. I had rheumatoid arthritis. It's gone. He had one woman from the UK. She was in her 70s who was like on 11 different medications. She ate carnivore for a year. She's off all of her medication now. This is not by accident, folks. This is not. Because you pointed out something very interesting. If they feed you the crap food, you'll need the medicine. So they get you on both ends.
Oh, yeah. Well, and this is what, we have 6 kids now. My oldest is 16 and we have a 1-year-old. So they've tallied up 60 some years total across the 6 kids. And we have yet to need antibiotics. For our kids, doctors will tell you, well, that's impossible. You can't raise children without antibiotics. They'll die. We have yet to have a broken bone. 6 kids, we do judo, jujitsu, we homestead, we hike. Never had a broken bone. There's so much about health in America that, the narrative of health in America is actually one of you constantly being chronically ill, broken and diseased, and being reliant on doctors to address that constant state of, I'm like, the human condition is generally one of wellness, not one of disease.
Right.
And we're such a sick culture that we've decided that being in constant states of disease for long periods of our life is normal, but it's not.
I stood outside of Kroger's in Holiday Manor back in around 2008, and I had a clipboard in my hand, and I tried to do like an impromptu survey. And as people were coming out, I asked them about the foods that they ate. Don't forget, I could see what was in their baskets.
Oh yeah.
I said, do you eat healthy? Yes, we do. And then I said, do you expect to have a disease by the time you are 60 years old? And every single one of them said yes. Many of them already had it. Yeah. And so you're right. We actually expect to have disease in this country. We don't expect the normal idle place to be health. We expect the idle place to be disease because we have been eating the wrong foods and living the wrong life for so long that we just assume that this is what humans do. People don't realize that before industrialization of America, which made us eat at certain times in the day because the owner of a company didn't want to pay for you to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So they paid you for lunch. You ate breakfast at home and dinner at home. Before the industrialization of America, where people were forced to do certain things that were contrary to health and then offered health insurance, because remember, my grandparents didn't have health insurance. They never went to the doctor. Once people got health insurance, it's like, oh, I have this perk. I need to use it. Let me go to the doctor for every freaking thing. People don't realize that before the advent of industrialization, illness was a rarity. I mean, don't get me wrong. Infection killed you. Farm implement accidents killed you. Like, medicine has solved those problems for us. Don't get me wrong, antibiotics. But people didn't run to the doctor for every friggin' thing and be told, oh, you need this medicine, you need that medicine.
Yeah, I think it was Dr. Mendelsohn who has a great book called How to Raise a Healthy Child in Spite of Your Doctor. And he's a full-fledged doctor, Mendelsohn. So really great book. But, he says basically there's an inverse relationship between how healthy you or your child will be and how often you let yourself see a doctor.
I believe it because I always use a joke and say, if you go to the doctor, they'll find something wrong with you. But I'm saying that really is true.
Well, you'll love this story. When our firstborn Abby was very young, she had an extended bout of something where she wasn't really, really sick, but it wasn't kind of clearing up how we thought it would. So we went into the doctor, and our doctor, who's a pretty decent doctor at the time, not as good as our current one, but a decent person to work with, said, she's fine. She's not dehydrated, whatever. Just continue to keep an eye on her. This should clear up in another week. He goes, but I just want you to know that since I'm not going to prescribe you an antibiotic, my reimbursement from the insurance company for this visit will be half of what I would get if I wrote you a script.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So just straight up told us that. And this is, again, this goes back to just like in our food system, in our health system, in our farming system, we have all of these perverse incentives. It's kind of like with the Rona madness over the past year. Well, when you start giving hospitals bonus money for classifying somebody with a disease, it's amazing how many more people will be classified with that disease.
I know. And making big money. And I just had this thought recently. Are we going to go back and calculate how many people didn't die of the COVID-19 that hospitals were reimbursed and all those millions of dollars that they made? Fraud. It's fraud. It's insurance fraud.
Yeah, I started to, in 2020, collect stories I saw on social media or from friends and family I know who had family members who passed away, who they knew did not pass away because of the virus, but on their death certificates, it said it was because of the virus. And I quit after I had 200 some stories cataloged. It was just amazing to see. So, but can't change the health system. But what me and Joel and others want to do is we want to change people's refrigerators.
Yeah, no, I like that. And by the way, if you can't make it to Florida for this event, you can actually purchase the videos, if you go to shrnetwork.biz/rogue, ROGUE. Now, I don't believe the code works for the videos, correct? The SHR20.
Yeah, codes for physical tickets if you want to come to the event.
Right. You can save 20% if you want to go to Florida and attend using the code SHR20. But if you want to buy the videos, those are at face value. What do the videos cost, John?
I think for just Florida, it's $46 for the entire day. And then we're doing a special right now because this is our 4th Rogue Food Conference. And so you can get all 4 conferences for like $95. So all, 26 hours of content.
Let's do this. Let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll tell people what they'll get if they purchase those videos. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more of John Moody. Later in the show, we're going to be talking about a fantastic antioxidant that you may have never heard of before. Stay tuned. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/whiteoak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 10% off your entire first order.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low carb.
One of the best health hacks there is using an infrared sauna with regularity. But infrared saunas are expensive. You have to assemble them, and they require a great deal of space in your home to dedicate to one. But that's all about to change because I negotiated an amazing deal with Helix, the infrared sauna blanket company, so that every one of my listeners can take advantage of an infrared sauna in their home, apartment, condo, wherever you live. Take it with you. Right now, you can get an infrared sauna blanket for just $469, and if you want, you can break it into 4 interest-free installment payments as well. There is no longer an excuse not to have and use an infrared sauna. Go to shrnetwork.biz/helix. That's HEALIX. Use code SHR. Get this ridiculously inexpensive price now and 45-day risk-free. If you don't like it, send it back. But I promise you, you will love it, and you will never want to be without it ever again.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today. If you've listened to Superhuman Radio for any length of time, you know I'm a big proponent of peptides. One of my favorites is GHKCU, the blue copper peptide. It has the ability to repair and regenerate more youthful expression of skin cells, reversing the signs of aging. Restore Cell's stem cell awakening serum, along with their other products, contains potent formulations of blue copper peptides and only the highest quality organic ingredients. Superhuman Radio listeners can now save 25% site-wide. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blue and use the code SHR25. Remodel your skin today.
Move over, superheroes. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Hey, welcome back.
Hey, your voice is holding up pretty good.
Yeah, I was just hacking. Hacking, blowing my nose. My neck hurts so bad when I cough. It's just unbearable.
Well,
So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, so I want to help your listeners because it's been a while since I've been on. Because
Right.
they might be sitting there going, "But I have food freedom," and they may not be aware of that. Years ago, the federal government was sued over the interstate ban on the sale and transportation of raw milk. So a lawsuit was filed against the federal government, and the FDA, in response to the lawsuit, you can go look this up, it's startling, said that there is no fundamental right to choose what you eat, who you get it from, or what you feed your family. And I just want your listeners, especially because you probably have tons of new listeners since we last talked, to realize that the U.S. federal government has said they are the final arbiter of what you get to eat and who you get it from.
Well, and how is that any different than teachers telling parents that parents don't matter when it comes to the decisions made to educate their children? I mean, the government thinks so. So here's the problem. Government is in place because they believe that we are too stupid to think for ourselves. We're just people. And the government is all-knowing and much smarter. And you see how the past 2 years with the government at the helm have worked out. Look at Canada. So you have to understand, like, the government has no business in your pantry. They have no business telling you what you can eat, what you can feed your children. None. And the truth of the matter is, to take this to the absurd, if you decide you want to kill you and your family, the government should not be able to intervene because we have the right to live this life the way we want to. But the government doesn't want you to do that. And this is a good point because I've been drinking raw milk for 20 years now.
You're alive?
Yeah, go figure, right? I'm not dead yet. I'm not dead yet. I sound like Monty Python. I'm not dead yet. You will be. So the reality is that raw unpasteurized milk is one of the greatest foods in the world. There's a reason why milk, the land of milk and honey, is quoted in the Bible. They didn't say pasteurized milk. They didn't say milk from Kroger's. It's the milk, the way it comes out of the cow's udder. And so the idea that you can't drink raw unpasteurized milk unless you are part owner in a cow, which that's how that's the way we get around it, is ridiculous. It's nonsense. And so you're right. We think we have the illusion of food freedom, but we really don't, because the government has the ability to authorize chemicals be sprayed on your food. That's okay with them.
Well, and even worse, take almonds. Most people don't know that almonds grown in America are now required by the government to be pasteurized, either chemically pasteurized or heat pasteurized. And then the government requires them to be labeled as raw.
So they're literally allowing the manufacturers and the suppliers to lie to you because you're too stupid to know what's good for you or not.
Well, and not just, they're basically, not allowing them, because a lot of the farmers and companies didn't want to do this, but they're forcing these companies and these farmers to mislabel their product because of the government regulations. It's just madness.
I didn't know that. And I always thought I was buying raw almonds, and I'm probably not.
No, they're almost likely either heat pasteurized or chemically pasteurized.
Do you know what chemicals they use to pasteurize almonds?
Not chemicals I want to be eating.
Yeah, exactly. This is sad. This is sad. I know a farmer. He's an old farmer. He's in his 80s now. And I had this discussion with him about glyphosate, and I'll never forget what he told me. He said, well, the man at the USDA told me it was safe.
Yeah, and the hooker told you she liked you.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. That's a good one. So what will average people get if they buy the videos?
Well, the Florida conference is primarily focused on two major topics. One is private member associations and other tools like that you can use not just in the area of food, but also in the area of healthcare. A lot of people are trying to develop alternatives to our death care system.
Right.
So we have a number of people going to be talking about that, and then a number of our speakers are focusing on the meat issue. What are ways farmers and people who want to get food directly from farmers can work around the ever-increasing number of roadblocks to getting good quality meat from the farmer to your fridge?
So theoretically, I have a farmer friend of mine. He has no access to a USDA processor. He doesn't want to wait for 2 days a year, and he wants to sell me pork chops. How can he do that?
Well, one is there's this whole animal exemption in the meat code where if I want to sell you a pork chop, it has to go through a USDA processing plant. But if I want to sell you a pig, you can have it butchered wherever you want if you're buying the whole pig. Well, then people asked, well, what if I just want a quarter of a pig? I don't want a whole pig. I don't want a whole cow. Could me and some friends split a pig or a cow? And yes, you can. Well, there's a really great tech initiative because FISIS, which is the Food Safety Inspection Service, it's an arm of the FDA, the alphabet soup that takes away our rights and endangers our health and wellness while destroying the economy. Attorney Pete Kennedy pressed FISIS on this exemption, and they said, well, how many people can co-own an animal? And FISIS said there is no limit on the number of people who can split live animals among themselves. Well, this company called Grazer, which is basically Thomas Cunningham and another guy said, well, what if we create a technology solution that lets a bunch of people who buy meat from a farmer all divide up whole animals so they can get down to just buying individual cuts, but they're all dividing up an entire animal together. So it doesn't have to go through the USDA. So it's these kind of workarounds that Pete Kennedy, Michael Kilpatrick, Dave and Ginger Shields are going to explore, to give people tools to think about given the, both where things are and the direction things are going.
I remember Pete Kennedy. He was the head of an organization back in the day. I want to say something to do with raw milk, wasn't he? Pete Kennedy?
Yeah. No, yeah. Pete is Pete is just a gem because he has been fighting for food freedom and the protection of small farms for over 2 decades.
Farm ranch and farm freedom, something. It was him and that girl, I can't think of her name. She'd been on my show years and years ago.
Sally Fallon?
No, not Sally. Yeah, Sally's been on my show numerous times too. But yeah, I remember Pete. Very distinctly. Yeah.
So Pete's great. So that's some of the stuff people are going to talk about. Past conferences, we've had Congressman Thomas Massey, who's came and spoke about the Prime Act, about, he picked up Ron Paul's bill to decriminalize raw milk. We've had just a slew of really interesting people. Max Kane, who for decades has been taking milk from Wisconsin into Chicagoland. And just really neat people who are willing to risk a lot to make sure people like you and your listeners have access to real food.
It's funny. Judith, I can't think of Judith's last name right now, but it'll come to me. She was part of that Farm and Ranch Freedom Association.
Yeah, Judith McGarry.
Yeah, that's it, McGarry. So people may not know this about us here in Kentucky, but one of the guys I used to get my my raw milk from, Gary Oakes.
Yep.
He had a farm share program, and some of the people, but so Northern Kentucky is really considered part of Ohio, and like the airport up the airport over there, which is the Cincinnati airport, is actually in Northern Kentucky, and he had people up there who were part of the farm share program. We all owned shares of cows, and they gave us the right to buy the milk. Well, the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Association arm of the federal government, besieged him when he was delivering milk and handcuffed him and locked him up like he was a crack dealer. Poor guy almost had a heart attack over milk. I mean, and I never understood, like, why does the government even give a shit about milk? And then I learned milk is an anchor product. It has a shelf life, and it's one of the reasons you go to Kroger's. And then while you're there, you buy all this other stuff. And they didn't want anybody taking a piece of the action out of the milk trade. And that is why they allowed the DEA to accost this poor Mennonite farmer. He had like 7 kids, and it cost him tens of thousands of dollars to fight this case. I think that most people in America would go, why are we have real criminals out there doing real crime, and we're going after this Mennonite farmer because he has a group of people who own cows and want to buy milk. It's shocking. It didn't make the newspapers purposefully, I'm sure.
Well, you'll like this story. The Kentucky Department of Health raided our buying club back in 2011. So we were raided by the Kentucky Department of Health at the behest of the federal government. Because we make unapproved food available to people. And we actually won. But the following couple years, we introduced some legislation in the Kentucky, political assembly to basically try and stop this from happening to other farmers and other people. So we're working on this legislation, and we were told we had to go to Frankfurt to meet with other stakeholders,
right,
who would be impacted by this legislation. So me and 2 other people working on this legislation drive to Frankfurt. We go to the Governor's Office of Agricultural Policy in Frankfurt, go into this room, we sit down. 2 men walk in from the Kentucky Dairy Association, the KDA, Kentucky Dairy Association. Now, if you go back in time about 3 decades, how many dairy farms did Kentucky have?
I have no idea. Probably thousands.
Almost 10,000.
Yeah, that makes sense.
A decade ago, when I was sitting in the KDA, how many dairy farms did Kentucky have?
10.
Less than 1,000.
Okay. All right.
So under the KDA's oversight, the Kentucky dairy industry experienced a 90% decline in farmers. Only the Federal Reserve has done a better job at destroying something.
Right.
And so we're sitting behind closed doors with these guys. And the KDA, because all milk has to go through pasteurization facilities,
right,
has a stranglehold on every farmer in the state. It's a mafia racket.
Right.
And our bill would give farmers an option. They could not have to sell their milk into the milk cartel that pays them, 63 cents for a gallon of milk that costs them $1 to produce.
Right.
So we're in this office. We're required to talk with these guys. And they threatened us with physical harm if we did not drop our bill. They They literally threatened us and our families that they would harm us if we continued to try and break their monopoly hold over the Kentucky dairy industry and its farmers.
I'm assuming these conversations were not recorded, right?
Oh no, again, this was all behind closed doors.
Right.
It's the kind of stuff that, I'm good friends with Congressman Thomas Massey.
Right.
And I was talking to him a number of years ago, and I asked him, I go, what is the most surprising thing for you having been in Washington now for a few years? And he told a story of how he was watching that TV show, House of Cards.
Yeah.
And he watched it. He's like, this is so ridiculous, so over the top. This doesn't actually happen. And then after about a year in Washington, D.C., he went home and told his wife, like, I need to watch all of these episodes because this is how it actually works in a lot of ways. Because you tell people, like, somebody's threatening to break your legs over milk. And they're like, and I'm like, me and two friends were sitting in this room when this guy got up from his side of the table and walked over and put a fist in our face, telling us that we better stop it before somebody gets hurt.
It's shocking, but it isn't because we know. I think more people are now aware of how corrupt government is. I really do. The past couple of years have helped us all in one way or another see incidences where we go, wow, government really is corrupt. They're horrible. And look, the FBI is now going after people who do anything that would potentially show the government in bad light. That they're gonna say you're a terrorist. I mean, think of it. This is like what goes on in China. It really is. This is it. This is going to become the People's Republic of America soon, if we're not careful. I want to put these banners up real quick before we take this last break. If you want to just buy the videos, go to shrnetwork.biz/rogue, ROGUE. But if you actually want to attend the event, you can go to, let me put this up real quick. You can go to roguefoodconference.com and use the code SHR20 for $20 off. Is that what it is, or 20% off?
It's $20 off any of the tickets.
Yeah, and attend it in person. I think the videos are really the way to go, personally, because not everybody can get to Florida, although we would like to at least lay in the sun for a little while.
Well, and that's the reason we chose Florida for the event, because if I get to do a conference and I get to choose when it is, why not Florida in March?
Yeah, I know. You're right. I know that's a lot more people are willing to go. We're going to take our last commercial break and wrap it up with John Moody. Then later, we're going to be talking with Dan Bensimon about Lipofullerene and its powerful antioxidant protective effects. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. If you'd like a shortcut to better sleep, more energy, and calmer, more stable moods, then you should make sure you're supplementing with Magnesium Daily. Let me tell you why. About 75% of people are magnesium deficient. This deficiency can lead to higher levels of anxiety, irritability, trouble sleeping, and low energy. It can even contribute to foot and leg cramps while you sleep. Magnesium Breakthrough by Bioptimizers is the single best magnesium supplement in the world. Simply take 2 capsules before you go to bed, and you'll be amazed by the improvements in your mood and energy levels and how much more rested you feel when you wake up. I take Magnesium Breakthrough every night, and I sleep better because I use it. Go to magbreakthrough.com/SHR and use the code SHR10 during checkout to save 10% off and get free shipping. Check it out. Have you been struggling to achieve results in the gym? Trouble sleeping through the night? Overwhelmed with stress or anxiety? Look no further than Infiniwell supplements. They have designed products to address specific needs like muscle growth, hormone balance, sleep, and anxiety from the first use. Infiniwell helps you live well. Go to shrnetwork.biz shrnetwork.biz/bewell. That's BEWELL, and use code SHR20 and start living well today. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/whiteoak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 10% off your entire first order. Verso contains potent compounds proven to increase NAD+. NAD+ is arguably the most important molecule in the body, and without it, you would die in less than 30 seconds. It's responsible for a number of physiological processes, one being that it guides longevity genes called sirtuins to direct cells in the body to perform their jobs. NAD+ levels drop with age, and when they're low, there isn't enough to guide sirtuins, so your cells start to break down. This explains why the body ages and consequently wrinkles appear. There is less benefit to exercise, it takes longer to recover, and an older body is not resilient like a young body. Start reversing biological age now. Go to shrnetwork.biz/verso and use the code SHR for 20% off plus free shipping on your bottle of Verso today. I would easily say that I am the hugest proponent you will ever meet to doing anything that will improve the quality of my sleep. And that's because sleep is linked to just about every metabolic disorder we see in our population today. One of the easiest things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep is to get a pillow that can be shaped into the exact form factor that allows you to get your best night's sleep. And that is MyPillow. I've been sleeping with MyPillow for a few years now, and I can tell you that when I have to travel and stay in hotels, I don't get a good night's sleep because I don't have MyPillow with me. Right now, you can save up to 60% off of everything offered to improve the quality of your sleep at shrnetwork.biz/MyPillow when you use the code SHR. Or you can call toll-free 800-889-4938. And remember to use code SHR to save up to 60% off of everything at their website. C60, also known as Buckminster Fullerene, is the most powerful, most versatile antioxidant in the world. It's been shown in studies to double the lifespan of rodents. We all know the importance of taking antioxidants to slow aging, reduce inflammation, and improve mitochondrial function and energy production. But there are literally hundreds of antioxidants that would cost you thousands of dollars to take every day. I take one. I take C60 from C360 Health. Revive and Rejuvenate are two blends that harness the power of C60. Don't waste another minute. Go to shrnetwork.biz/revive and use the code SHR for 15% off and free shipping inside the United States today.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where we use oxygen for the power of good.
Welcome back. We're talking with John Moody. We're talking about food freedom. It's really something, it's weird. You're right. I don't think a lot of people realize that they really don't have the freedom to eat whatever they choose to. They have to eat what the government will allow them to eat. And I think it's going to be amplified very shortly with the news of possibly the prices of meat going through the roof very shortly, so much so that Walmart has announced that all animal protein will be under lock and key. You won't be able to just go over there and pick up a steak anymore. You have to get somebody to open the case and get your steak. Prices going through the roof. They're afraid of theft, that, meat is going to become in such demand that, where do you hear that? You hear that about like Russia. You hear that in countries where they ration. What's next? Is the government going to start rationing animal protein next?
Yeah, well, not to get into geopolitics too much, but if we end up in a war in the Ukraine because these people are knuckleheads, I have no doubt you could possibly see rationing in the economy for the first time since World War II. So, they've really badly damaged the United States economy.
In 1 year. In 1 year.
Oh, yeah. We went from the best economy, basically, that I've ever experienced in all my time on Earth, to walking into grocery stores and still seeing rolling shortages of products. A bunch of my friends who have small businesses have had to take there's one company we used to get kombucha from. and the kombucha came in glass bottles. And they had to switch to using cans because you can't buy glass bottles anymore. They've tripled in price, and it's 4 months to get a basic item for a business. You can barely get, I just don't think a lot of people really understand. They walk into the grocery store, they notice it looks a little off. You go to Costco, you notice the bunks are nowhere near as full as 2 years ago. And I'm like, no, like these are the warning signs that
Right.
this is the canary in the coal mine that you really need to pay attention, because if they continue to chip away at all the things necessary to feed 370 million people 3 meals a day, this can go sideways far more quickly than you can imagine.
And when you talk about the knuckleheads, you're talking about our government. When you
well, and the corporations, though, who benefit from the government's knuckleheadedry.
Right.
So they're at this point, it's kind of like, when you see grocery stores requiring proof of vaccination to buy highly processed crap food, and the government is, they're all part of the Just Us Club, because it's just us supervillains making you sick, doing all of these things together. And they all are rubbing each other's backs, slapping each other's shoulders, and benefiting from denying people access to food, denying people, access to life apart from getting experimental pharmaceuticals and stuff. And again, this is one reason I really want people to value food freedom. Like for me and my family and everybody who's in my buying club in Louisville, if they were to ban us from grocery stores, we would not care and we would not need them.
Right.
Imagine just not having to play their game because they have no leverage over you.
Right. And that's what we're talking about here. I'm glad you summarized that towards the end of this interview. What we're talking about here is you being the master of your own destiny and taking that control, that power away, that you will always be able to get real, healthy food for you and your family, no matter what the conditions. You must start now finding farmers in your area. So let's say someone's listening to the show. They're not necessarily interested in going to your event. They can buy the videos, but how do they find CSAs and buying clubs in their area?
Oh, well, one is just searching. If you go online and put in the name of a city and say buying club, tons of the buying clubs all over the country will pop up. There's a website called Eat Wild. I think there used to be a website called like Locally Grown. There's organizations like Certified Naturally Grown that are a great way to find farmers in your area who are following organic or better than organic practices. So it's mostly just a matter of a small bit of effort will give you a lot of payoff if you begin to poke around and look around.
Okay. Sean Wasson said he raised 3 pigs last year and got 600 pounds of natural meat. You know what? This may not be as far-fetched as you think it is for people to start doing, especially if you can go in partners with somebody on an animal and get the cuts that you want, as you were talking about earlier in the show. Go to the website, roguefoodconference.com. Use the code SHR20 if you want to attend in person. If you don't want to attend in person, you can buy a complete set of the videos from the last 4 events by going to shrnetwork.biz/rogue, ROGUE. We need to start educating ourselves about this. I know a lot of people are probably sitting back going, oh, this is nonsense. This is just, making much to do about nothing. It's not, folks. It's not. Elaine Remain says, you win, Sean, because he raised so big. John, thanks for being here today, brother.
Man, it's great to see you again. So I hope you feel all the way better soon. And
about another few days.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll catch you up in Louisville sometime.
Yes, absolutely. All right, take care. We'll talk again soon. We're going to take one quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Dan Bensimon to talk about an amazing antioxidant you may not know about. And trust me, antioxidants are very, very important. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. If you've listened to this show for any length of time, you know that I have struggled to give up coffee for years. Coffee has destroyed my gut and it's impaired my health. Well, I haven't had coffee in months thanks to a product called Magic Mind. Magic Mind is the first nootropic blend I actually feel working. One shot and I'm good all day long. My memory is crystal clear and I'm able to function and have great focus without coffee or caffeine for that matter. If you want to try a product that really works, if you're like me and you want to give up coffee forever, or you just need something occasionally that will help you lift the brain fog, Magic Mind is your product. I promise you that this product you will feel when you use it. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Magic Mind, all one word, and use the code SHR for a whopping 20% off your first order. Have you been struggling to achieve results in the gym? Trouble sleeping through the night? Overwhelmed with stress or anxiety? Look no further than Infiniwell supplements. They have designed products to address specific needs like muscle growth, hormone balance, sleep, and anxiety from the first use. Infiniwell helps you live well. Go to shrnetwork.biz/bewell. That's BEWELL. And use code SHR20 and start living well today. If you'd like a shortcut to better sleep, more energy, and calm, more stable moods, then you should make sure you're supplementing with Magnesium Daily. Let me tell you why. About 75% of people are magnesium deficient. This deficiency can lead to higher levels of anxiety, irritability, trouble sleeping, and low energy. It can even contribute to foot and leg cramps while you sleep. Magnesium Breakthrough by Bioptimizers is the single best magnesium supplement in the world. Simply take 2 capsules before you go to bed, and you'll be amazed by the improvements in your mood and energy levels and how much more rested you feel when you wake up. I take Magnesium Breakthrough every night and I sleep better because I use it. Go to magbreakthrough.com/SHR and use the code SHR10 during checkout to save 10% off and get free shipping. Check it out.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low carb.
C60, also known as Buckminster-Fullerene, is the most powerful, most versatile antioxidant in the world. It's been shown in studies to double the lifespan of rodents. We all know the importance of taking antioxidants to slow aging, reduce inflammation, and improve mitochondrial function and energy production. But there are literally hundreds of antioxidants that would cost you thousands of dollars to take every day. I take one. I take C60 from C360 Health. Revive and Rejuvenate are 2 blends that harness the power of C60. Don't waste another minute. Go to shrnetwork.biz/revive and use the code SHR for 15% off and free shipping inside the United States today. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High quality, pasture raised, great tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose to tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use the code superhuman to save 10% off your entire first order.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where brawn and brains finally meet.
Well, it looks like we may be having some sort of connectivity problem with Dan Bensimon. His camera says device not connected. I hope he can hear me. I've been trying to message him through the private chat. We'll give him a couple minutes here to see if he can jump on with us. Let's see here. Add to the stream. It looks like he's trying to connect. Hey, Dan, can you hear me?
I can hear you. It says my camera's on, but you're telling me it's not.
No, I just can't see you. That's the weirdest thing. Well, that's okay. I guess we'll just have to do this audio only. How's that sound?
It doesn't bother me.
Okay. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. Did you have a chance to overhear our last discussion about glass bottles? I know you use glass bottles for your lipofullerene. Are you having trouble getting bottles?
No, we've got pretty good suppliers, and our suppliers are still running fairly well, so we don't seem to have any problems with that.
Good, good, good. And that is a quality issue. I mean, the fact that you use glass bottles says something, because that means that the product can't potentially or accidentally be denatured. Am I right about that?
That's correct. And basically, that's why we use all the ingredients we use, because none of them have any preservatives or anything else or additives in them. Everything is pure and it's all natural. And, a lot of people have asked us to put it in the pills and to put it in the pill form or into some kind of other form of delivery. And there's nothing more perfect than just a regular liquid.
So now there's been a lot of confusion about C60. And in that, a lot of companies don't use olive oil. Talk about the significance of olive oil and the original research on C60.
Well, the original research on C60 was done in the easiest manner possible, which was using H2O, which was using water. And carbon 60 doesn't react very well with water, and it doesn't bind very well with water because its hydrogen really forces the problem. So after all the studies that were done that showed that it could be somewhat toxic if used when it's bound with water, everybody started turning to different kinds of lipids and what kind of lipids they could use instead of using water, the more gentle lipids and forward. And they started using a lot of things. The thing about olive oil is if you get good olive oil that is organic and it's got true olive oil, it is the best binding agent you can get with carbon 60. It binds better. It has a longer shelf life. It'll stay stay a lot longer. It'll maintain its properties a lot longer. And once they're bound, the properties will last a good 2.5 years. So it's just, to us, it's from a manufacturing standpoint and from a production standpoint, it's just a lot easier to produce that way, a lot more effective to produce that way. And it generates greater binding.
Is it more expensive to produce it with olive oil? I see companies out there using coconut oil. And I usually, all the original research was done with olive oil. The research that was done on rodents that doubled their lifespan, that was all done with olive oil. Why would someone want to use coconut oil? Is it cheaper?
Well, because there's a lot of belief, and there's some studies that indicate that coconut oil can penetrate the brain barrier better. And so people get carried away with that, and they want to do that. Problem with coconut oil is it won't stay bound very long. And if you use proper olive oil and you bind it fairly well, it'll penetrate the brain barrier too. But based on the studies that were done, coconut oil has a better chance of penetrating the brain barrier.
But the C60 does make it into the brain, huh?
It makes it in the bloodstream, that part of the bloodstream will penetrate the brain, yes.
Because I know the blood-brain barrier is designed to keep things out of the area of the brain. So when using olive oil or coconut oil, for that matter, is it wise to take your C360 product with a meal to stimulate digestion or proper digestion of fat?
That's a good question, and the real answer is kind of nebulous, because the truth is if you're used to olive oil, you're used to digesting olive oil. It's not an unnatural substance for you, whereby you're not used to using it, never used it before in your salads or whatever. Then it is better for you to digest something, if you're not used to it, to have something in your stomach when you take the oil and so forth. But if you're used to olive oil, I was born in the Mediterranean region, and we had olive oil all the time.
Right.
It grew right there, and wherever you were, it wasn't very far away from you. So we had olive oil all the time. Olive oil went with everything. It didn't make any difference what you ate. So for me, I can take it straight out of the bottle. I have no problems. It doesn't have any problems for me. Other people have that problem. So you got to do something different. You either chase it with a drink, or chase it with a smoothie or something, or eat something with it.
I was going to say, who hasn't eaten olive oil on this planet? I mean, you think there are populations that haven't been exposed to olive oil?
Well, I will tell you that out of the 30,000 plus customers we have, we probably have 50 to 100 that don't absorb olive oil very well until after they've taken it for a while. So it's not a very high number, but there are people who are not exposed to oils.
That's
olive oils anyway.
I would have never guessed that. That's amazing. So for those who aren't familiar with lipofullerene, talk about some of the studies and how it affects the body from an antioxidant standpoint.
Well, the best thing about lipofullerene is if you're able to bind it well with a proper lipid, when you put it together, it becomes a very natural source of regaining your body back, is what I call it. It's a way to get your immune system working at the highest efficiency it can possibly work by being able to get all the free radicals out of your body, being able to detoxify your body to a large degree, except for heavy metals, and being able to let your immune system and your body react to the conditions that you're living with. And those conditions, I mean, there's nobody better to make those decisions than your immune system when it's healthy.
Now, you've taken the C60 molecule to an additional extent because you add other things to your olive oil that are designed to also influence inflammation, right?
That's correct. We decided that we wanted to go further than just getting rid of the free radicals and make it a strong antioxidant. We wanted to go to the point that most of the problems that are incurred today by our bodies, and it's because of an immune system that has been somewhat compromised, are inflammation. And there's a lot of autoimmune diseases running around, but inflammation is a result of a lot of things that your immune system can't take care of. So we started out by saying we needed a few ingredients here to make it stronger. And of course, we picked serrapeptase and we picked L-carnosine as the main ones we wanted to do. We also worked with CoQ10. And the reason we picked serrapeptase is because we know that most inflammation that occurs to people is around the joints. It's arthritic. It's due to an arthritic condition. It's due to what occurs to the body after it's been used a lot and suffered a few injuries. So because of that, we took serrapeptase because in the 70s, Japanese had made studies on serrapeptase and said that they were the answer to arthritis. Because from a membrane standpoint, from a soft tissue standpoint, whenever they tested it in the lab with the serrapeptase was strong enough that they reduced the inflammation in those membranes. Serrapeptase is also kind of like the material you see that a butterfly uses to come out of its cocoon. And that material is very similar to the dead tissue that we have around our joints. So that made a lot of people think that, well, serrapeptases are the answer. So they tried serrapeptases, and in 2004 or 2005, they came back with a study that said, well, we thought serrapeptase was the answer, but apparently we can't get enough of it in the bloodstream or in the body to circulate to the right places because it doesn't get absorbed. Serrapeptase has a tendency to only have a small percentage of it getting absorbed no matter how you prepare it. Well, we decided that we had a pretty good technique as to how to get the lipofullerenes into your body. And so we decided that we would mix serrapeptase in there, and we tested that, and that worked. That seemed to be buffered fairly well to get into the bloodstream, or very well to get into the bloodstream. Then we decided that if you have problems with your inflammation, with the tissue being inflamed, that there's going to be a few damages to the tissue, and that had to be repaired. So we included L-carnosine into our stuff so it could help the soft tissue recover from damages that it may occur. And then, of course, CoQ10 because of the heart. But as we went through that and we did the testing, our first set of testings were done on animals, on dogs primarily. The first 60 samples were all dogs or tests. We did clinical tests and we saw that all those things got absorbed in a proper manner to get into the bloodstream a lot better. We tested it with serrapeptase with the lipofullerene and serrapeptase without and see what would happen. And we found a great improvement when it was included with the lipofullerene, as long as we got pure serrapeptase. So we did that, and that worked well, and so did the carnosine and the CoQ10. And then we did tests. We ran tests continuously on cytokines, because the cytokine markers in the blood are what tells you where the inflammation is in the inflammation.
Right.
And we found that this product reduced all major 17 cytokine values that we could test at that time, the major ones. And so it was the only one of the products we tested that came out reducing the cytokines where they should have been reduced. So we were fairly happy with that. So when we did that and then started testing the bloodstreams and what happened in the blood, we found out that most of the blood markers, or most of the blood that's tested, if it's on the abnormal basis, if it's too low or it's too high than what the normal range is for the species we're testing, that it normally worked itself back to normal after a while, to be in the normal range. So that's how we knew that we were really impacting the immune system, and the immune system, with the help of the anti-inflammatory products, the immune system was really getting stronger.
Can you take too much lipofullerene?
Yeah, well, there's always cases where people do take too much, and usually the problem with that is it creates digestive issues, and those digestive issues, sooner or later, if you don't overcome them, will become a problem for the immune system. So we normally tell people, when they're starting to get some digestive issues with this, to stay off it for a while until they get back onto a normal stream, and then start it again, but stay within the parameters that we have identified on the bottles.
Craig Hollander, we're aware of this study that you just posted. We're actually going to talk about it on the next show. Right. But I don't want to talk about it right now, because we are going to get the entire paper. There's more to that particular paper than meets the eye. Plus, there were like 60 or 70 people named on that paper, which was kind of shocking to me. I don't understand that one, but we will talk about that.
Most of the people named on that paper were people that were doing studies that were doing it with water. And that was the first step that everybody used, and we're no longer in that phase. So they were right. It was toxic with water if you mixed it that way and brought it back in.
Yeah, right about that. And that's the problem with that study is the title implies that they were using olive oil, but the toxic effects was seen in the ones that they were using water. And right. That's why you need the whole paper, not just the abstract.
That's right.
The abstract and and some of the tables are available, but the whole paper will tell a different story. And we will cover that on the next show, because
right.
we actually emailed about that this morning. So is the GI distress from lipofullerene more because people aren't used to consuming large amounts of olive oil, or is there something unique about the actual carbon 60?
It's more the large amounts of olive oil. We have never received a complaint that indicated to us that it was anything else than the olive oil.
How long has C60 been used now?
Probably since 2010, 2009, 2010. So it's been used quite a while. We've been using it since 2013. So we've been using it since then. I've been taking it solid since 2014. So I can tell you it's had no impacts on me that were negative in any way.
Well, I mean, you can take too much vitamin C and have negative impacts.
That's true.
So, the devil is in the details, and we will get to that, Craig, I promise you. So is there a sweet spot? And if there is, does it pay to take off for a little while here and there from lipofullerene?
Well, there are debates on that. And we did that on our clinical tests to dogs, and we had them take more. If we gave them much more, how much would it impact them? And if we gave them much less, how much would it impact them? Or if we didn't give them any for a while, how much would it impact them? And we found that the anti-inflammatory impacts and the impacts on all the different types of cytokines, we found that they were affected. If you gave too much, if you started taking too much to catch up for what you lost before, you'll create an inflammatory impact within your bloodstream.
Interesting.
And it'll occur in different places, but you're taking too much, and you, like everything else you take, you got to make sure that you stay within a normal range. And if you're taking too little, then the declines of the cytokine impacts won't be the same, and you're not going to get the anti-inflammatory impact. So yeah, there is a targeted range that we mentioned in our bottles and the ingredients and in the dosage you take. But the goal is, instead of leaning on taking more or getting off it, the goal is take less and take it on a regular basis. Start taking less. As your body reacts and gets used to it and has more and more in there. Remember, the carbon-60 stays in the bloodstream for a few months. So all that stuff stays in the bloodstream for a while. So after a while, you can start reducing your dosage and feel just as good.
Carbon-60 seems to have a profound effect on mitochondrial function. Would you say that it is specifically a mitochondrial antioxidant?
Well, I'm not going to say that specifically a mitochondrial antioxidant. I'm going to say that because you get your immune system at better functioning efficiency, that you're going to increase your mitochondrial function. And carbon-60 will stimulate the mitochondrial function and the increase in that. But getting your body into a position where it feels more efficient has a lot to do with increasing that.
So, according to Dr. Thomas Seyfried, the mitochondria is what breaks first, that eventually leads to the formation of cancers. Has there been any research at all on C60 and cancer?
Yeah, we've made quite a few research. We've made quite a bit of research, and we made quite a bit of headway on C60 and cancer, but we haven't released any products that we can be consistent with. What we found on dogs, because we produced that patent about 5 years ago. What we found on dogs and canines, and we did the same thing with felines, we found that we can have an impact on the spreading of the cancer, where the cancer won't spread to other locations. And we found that if we use rigid dietary effects, that it will then, dietary limits that the dogs can take, it will then have an impact on reducing the cancer. But I can't say that our test has ever killed the cancer by itself. There's always cells that are there. So you don't get them all.
You're talking about metastasis, right? It slowed
We're
down.
talking about metastasis, and we're talking about if you do reduce the cancer in one location, how far can you reduce it? And we've seen, based on measuring sizes, we've seen our ability to reduce the size of the cancer, but we've never seen our ability to completely annihilate the cancer.
Yeah. And that's in dogs. We've seen that with the utilization of a hypocaloric ketogenic diet, where tumors would actually go into suspended animation. They wouldn't grow. They shrunk as far as they were going to shrink, and then they just stayed there. If anybody's interested in that research, you can go to the Keto Pet Sanctuary website, because Elaine Remains is asking what kind of dietary effects. When you remove sugar from the diet, when you remove starches from the diet, when you minimize both glutamine and methionine consumption, and you put the animal into a state of ketosis. For those of you who are not familiar with this, just Google Keto Pet Sanctuary. Watch some of the videos. This is the results of Ron and Shannon Penna, who were the real founders of Quest Nutrition. They invested a great deal of money. They started a sanctuary in Texas, where dogs that were going to be euthanized, they got the owner's permission to take the dogs to the Keto Pet Sanctuary, put them on a ketogenic diet. They had CT scans there. They had everything that you would see in a modern human lab. And many of those dogs were given weeks and months to live, and lived for years because of dietary restrictions that they were put under. And it's fascinating because no one within the human medical community has really picked up on this. And again, to to pay tribute to Dr. Thomas Seyfried. This all is the result of his book, Cancer as a Metabolic Disease, which most oncologists will poo-poo. They'll say, "Oh, it's nonsense." But if you look at the results from the Keto Pet Sanctuary, and by the way, that is where the food. Keep in mind that Keto Pet. I'm sorry, not Keto Pet, but Visionary Pet Food is not a paying sponsor of mine. But we have so many people in our audience that have pets that I insist on running the ads for the Visionary Pet Food, because it's a keto pet food. Because the number one killer of Labrador retrievers and golden retrievers today is cancer. And the number one killer of most dogs today is cancer. And it's from the high carbohydrate foods that they eat. Kibble is always 30 to 50% carbs. Dogs were never designed to eat carbs. But Elaine, if you go to the Keto Pet Sanctuary website, you'll find all of the information you need to understand the dietary restrictions that when dogs are when are applied to dogs. It's fascinating. They can actually reverse death. They won't reverse. The cancers won't disappear, as Dan said. They just go into suspended animation, and the dogs don't die from their cancers. Are you familiar? Are you familiar with them by any chance, Dan?
Yes, we're familiar with them, and we were going to start a study with that. See, I was going to go a few years ago to use our product along with their product when the dogs had more than 2 or 3 organs that were already affected, so we could reduce the impact on all the organs. Our biggest problem has been in that, again, like I said, exactly what you talked about. We recommended a keto diet, and some of our dogs that we tested, quite a few of them lived 3 or 4 years longer, which is longer than anybody expected. But we just could never get it to the point where they were out of danger of cancer.
Right. Fascinating. Let me put this banner ad up one more time. So if you are interested in learning more about the single most powerful antioxidant in the world, and they make one blend for women and one blend for men, and we'll have Dan explain why. Revive and Rejuvenate. Revive is made for men. Rejuvenate is made for women. You go to shrnetwork.biz/revive, REVIVE. Use the code SHR for 15% off all products. And you can start using this antioxidant is 470 times more effective than vitamin C. It's more effective than any antioxidant out there. And it's powerful stuff. And that's why, as Dan says, you get into that sweet spot and then you can back it off and just take a maintenance dose and all this, because this stuff really, 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 really works. I take it. I actually am in that sweet spot now where I'm not taking it daily anymore. I take it about 2 times a week with a teaspoon. It's olive oil. I'm Italian. I love olive oil. I think my mother breastfed me olive oil. I'm not sure. But this is an amazing antioxidant. And if you look at some of the research done by Dr. Aubrey de Grey, who has the mitochondrial theory on aging, he'll tell you antioxidants are one of the best things to keep you aging slowly and healthy. And this is the best antioxidant in the world. Why the two? Why Revive and Rejuvenate, Dan?
Well, because for the Revive, we were trying to make most of the formula depend on the antioxidants and depending on the enzymes that we put in. And for Rejuvenate, we wanted to try to hydrate the skin more. We were focused on trying to put something in there that would hydrate the skin. So we locked on the hyaluronic acid. We found out that we could put it in here and help hydrate the skin. We just couldn't bind it to the level that we wanted to from other things. So we can't put enough hyaluronic acid that it will also impact your problems with joint problems or joint issues by being able to create more liquid, if you will, to help you through your membranes. So we've only put enough in to hydrate the skin. And so we thought that most men would be more willing to work on their muscles and trying to get a little more strength in it, while the women wouldn't mind losing a little bit of the formula to be able to hydrate the skin.
Yeah, and I figured that was the reason. But I've used Rejuvenate sometimes. Sometimes I use the Revive. I just whatever is available. I use them both, and I'm a big believer in C60. So, Dan, we're coming to the end of the interview. Is there anything that you wanted to mention to the audience before we go?
Well, I mean, we're talking about doing some new things with the product, but we're really pleased with the performance of the product. We've been around now for 6 years selling this stuff, and the amount of customers that are pleased with this product is a lot more. To us, is very rewarding. We don't normally get in the course of a year. We don't normally get 2 complaints that somebody says this is a shitty product.
Right.
So we haven't even had that, and so that's what rewards us more than anything else is our customers that keep coming back. And that keep telling us how wonderful the product's been for them and how they've learned to live better with this product.
Elaine Remains wants to know, does the women's formula build muscle too? I don't think either of them technically build muscle, right?
They don't build muscle. We don't have any amino acids in there to help build the muscle. The only amino acids you get are from the L-carnosine, and that's just a building block for that. So we don't build muscle, but what we do is we help you train harder. It'll help you train harder, the product will, so that you can push yourself a lot further and you can recover from that a lot quicker, thus helping build your muscle.
Now, Elaine lives in Canada. Can you ship this product to Canada, Dan?
We do.
Okay, good. Just an afterthought. Okay. So there you go. Once again, if you go to shrnetwork.biz/revive, REVIVE, use the code SHR, you'll save 15% off. Feel younger, stronger, and energized. And of course, the sponsors make this show possible. So if you're interested in using a C60 product, we want you to use this one from C360 Health because they help make this show possible. Dan, thanks for being here today, even if it's just in audio only. It was a great interview.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks, Carl.
I will talk again soon. And that's it for today. I'm off the air tomorrow, but we have shows Wednesday and Thursday, so please tune in. Don't forget, share this show. You never know who you're going to help. And I have it on good authority. The Pope says that you'll go to heaven if you share the show and you help somebody. So there you go. Yeah. Hey, you know what? It's not beneath me to pander, Dan. Not beneath me at all. And let's see here. We have one more. Elaine says, thank you, guys. Yes, and thank you for being here, Elaine, and bringing so many great questions. We'll see you Wednesday, everybody. Take care.